What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with camera tips and tricks for the Motorola Moto G Stylus 5G 2023. So stay tuned if you want to learn how to get the most of all the various cameras on your device. So the Moto G Stylus 5G 2023 launched very recently in June of this year. Now this phone is being offered at an MSRP of just $399, and despite it being a mid-range phone, we are getting a lot of different cameras here and a lot of different abilities with them. Now the first thing I want to do is give you an overview of what all we're getting as far as the cameras go. So starting off with the selfie camera, it's located in a hole punch up top here, and it is 16 megapixels. Then on the back of the phone, we have a dual camera setup with a 50 megapixel main camera and an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle camera. Now the first thing I want to show you is a quick and easy way to get to the camera app on the phone, and you can do that by just double pressing on the power button. However, that's not enabled by default, so let me show you how to set that up. So what you're going to do is pull down the shade, go to the gear icon to take you over to the settings, then from here, go down to where it says gestures, then go down to where it says double press power key, and then select launch camera. Now with that enabled, all you have to do is double press in the power key and you pull up the camera app. And you can do this from anywhere throughout the operating system. For example, if you're in the app drawer and you want to go to the camera app, just double press in that button. Another shortcut to get to the camera app, which is already enabled by default, is to simply just twist the phone like this, and then you can see we're now at the camera app. So we'll do that again. And there we go, very easy. But now that we're here on the camera app, I'll show you how to access the various cameras on the phone. So by default, it'll take us over to the main 50 megapixel camera. As you can see, we're here right now. Then from there, you can go to 0.5 to get to the ultra wide angle camera. And as you can see, it does crop things out a bit so they can fit more into a single frame. Now what's interesting with the Moto G Stylus 5G 2023 is that technically there is a macro mode, which is located right here, but we don't actually have a dedicated macro camera on the device. I believe instead what it does is it takes the two cameras that we do have and essentially gives us a version of macro mode. So that's really awesome, and in reality it does work really well. So you can see we're in the macro mode, and then you can get very close up and have things be in really good detail. So that's cool that they're able to do this without actually giving us a macro camera. Then from there, if you want to switch over to portrait mode, simply tap on portrait and we can get those nice blurred out backgrounds. We also have the ability to adjust the amount of blur. So if you want less blur, you can do that, or more blur, you can select that as well. And then we can do portrait selfies too. So just flip around to the front facing camera. There's me right there. And then we can then capture portrait selfies. And then just like taking portrait mode photos of the rear camera, you can also adjust the amount of blur here. And in addition to that, you can crop out a little bit for a group selfie. So there's a group selfie mode and then standard selfie mode. Then we have this button right here. And if you go there, it kind of smooths out your face. So I'm not a big fan of that personally, but that is there if you want to use it. I'm going to set that to 0. And then of course we can take standard selfies as well if you don't want portrait mode selfies. Now heading back over to the main camera, I know I mentioned before that it is a 50 megapixel camera, but unfortunately by default it doesn't actually capture images at the full 50 megapixels. Now if you want to do that, you actually have to go over to the More tab here and then select 50 Ultra Res, and then you can actually capture images at 50 megapixels. Now I believe the reason why it doesn't do this by default, even though it has a 50 megapixel camera, is because 50 megapixel photos take up significantly more space on the phone compared to the default photo mode, and for most people, they don't actually need 50 megapixel pictures. So just something worth keeping in mind. Now there's also a lot of other good stuff here in that More tab. So there's spot color. So with that, you can actually just pick a color and then it will grayscale everything else besides that color. You can also adjust that as well. There's also night vision, which is pretty self-explanatory, ideal to use at nighttime. There's panorama, ultra res, which I showed you already. Now dual capture is pretty interesting. Basically it captures with the rear and front cameras at the same time. And what's cool too is that you can switch between the two cameras. So if you want the dominant camera to be the rear camera instead, you can do that. And you can also pick for the rear camera which camera of the two you actually want to be in this mode. So you can have the ultra wide camera or the standard camera. And beyond that, you can go right here to change the layout. So if you want to have a 50-50 layout here with one camera in the top half and another in the bottom half, you can do that. And then you can also flip those around as well. So a lot of different options here. And in addition to that, there's dual capture video. So that's pretty self-explanatory, works the same way as dual capture photo, it's just with video instead. And then finally, there's time-lapse mode and spot color video. Now, if any of these in the More tab are things that you find yourself using a lot, and you want to put them in the bottom slider instead, you can easily do that. So going over to the More tab, you can go to this pen icon here in the bottom right corner. Then you can grab any of these. For example, maybe use Ultra Res a lot. You can simply just drop that right in, go to done, and then now it's in this bottom slider. And then if there's certain modes here that you don't find yourself using, for example, maybe you never use slow motion and you don't want it down there, you can remove that and then go to done. And then now there's no slow motion in this bottom slider. Now, in addition to what I've shown you so far, there's also Pro mode right here. So in Pro mode, you can adjust the white balance. You can also adjust the ISO and some other things as well. So that's pretty nice for more advanced photographers. You can also go up here and pick if you want it to be a JPEG image or a RAW image or RAW and JPEG. Then heading over to the other end of the slider, we have slow motion, which is pretty self-explanatory, and then video mode as well. Now in video mode, you can actually have the torch on at all times. So if you want to have things lit up a little bit more, you do have that ability. You can also turn off stabilization. However, I don't recommend doing that. You can also change the aspect ratio of the video. So you can have it take up the full display here instead of 16:9 or 9:16. And then also over here, you can switch between full HD, which is 1080p, or 4K. There's also a portrait video mode, so you can activate that. And if you're, of course, behind the camera, you can take portrait videos. There has to be a person there, though. You can't do it with simply an object. And then swiping down here gives you the ability to switch from 30 to 60 FPS. And then also you can turn the mic off if you do want to. Then heading over to photo mode, we have some other options up here. So you can toggle the flash. You can have the flash on at all times, or you can have it be on auto or off at all times. You can also then go over here and turn night vision off, or you can have it be on auto. You can also adjust HDR, have that on or off. You can also adjust the aspect ratio of your photos. So you can do 1:1, so square. You can also do 3:4, which is the default. You can do 9:16 or 16:9. That's great for video thumbnails. Or you can also do the entire display panel here of the phone. Also in photo mode, you can swipe down and you can set a timer. So there can be no timer, 10 seconds or 3 seconds. And then you have an option here for active photos, which is similar to Apple's live photos on the iPhone. Also, you can see that there are some filters available too. So you can do original, you can pick all kinds of different filters. So I do recommend trying out some of these. However, I personally prefer to add filters after I take the photo. And then also over here, this is Google Lens. So this is really useful and super underrated, but basically you can take a photo of an object and then it will search up that object and tell you what it is and even where you can buy it. But now that I've given you a tour of the camera app, let's get a bit deeper into the settings. So we're gonna go to this gear icon in the upper right corner, and there's a lot of good stuff here as well, starting off with AI settings. So we'll go to this drop down. You can see one of them here is auto smile capture. So automatically capture when everyone in the frame is smiling. So I'm going to give that a try right now. I'm gonna flip around to the front facing camera, and there we go, I smiled and it took the photo. Let's try that again. There we go. So that's pretty cool. And then heading back over here, we also have an option for gesture selfie. So show your palm, take a selfie. This might be kind of tough with the camera in front of me, but okay, there we go. Cool. Maybe I'll use that for a thumbnail. And then also there's smart composition. So automatically level and implement the rule of thirds. We'll flip around for that. Then under photos, you can pick the front photo resolution, so you can have it be higher or standard. Keep in mind if it's a higher resolution, it's going to take up more space on your phone. There's also selfie photo mirror, so if you want your photos to be mirrored when taking a selfie, you can do that. We also have device watermark. Now, I was just out taking a bunch of test photos and I used this watermark feature, which is great. Basically in the corner of the picture, it will give you a watermark of the name of the phone. You can also add a timestamp with the date, and then if you want to, you can add your name as well. So that's pretty nice. Also under videos, we have the option for efficient videos, so you can reduce the file size by saving under a different format, although you might not find as good of compatibility. There's also capture settings here, so quite a few options. I've already shown you quick capture, so you can twist your wrist and it'll open the camera. There's also tap anywhere to capture, so capture by tapping anywhere on the screen. So just like that, I can capture images that way. And then there's also an option to remove the shutter sound. So by default, the camera does make a sound when you tap on the shutter button, but now it does not. That could be helpful potentially. There's also assistive grid and the leveler, so I'll enable both of those. So with the grid, you get the rule of thirds, and with the level, you know if things are leveled or not. Heading back over to here, we have keep last mode, so open the camera in the last used mode. So if you find yourself being a bit frustrated by things going back to the default quite a bit, you can enable that. But that's pretty much it. So in conclusion, there's a lot of great, awesome camera features with the Moto G Stylus 5G 2023. And hopefully after watching this video, you're more familiar with what this phone is actually capable of doing. And remember, even though this isn't a super high-end device, you're still getting really good cameras here that are capable of doing a lot of good things. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. But this is Kevin here, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care and have a great rest of your day.